Congratulations, Linda. You just never know where those Grinnell Park hippies that wore bell-bottoms and buffalo sandals end up, do you? But some of you in the room, I remember you from a long time ago. The next is also in the for-profit category, where women have excelled. And the next recipient is Carmen Johnson, who is the Pioneer Corporate Legal Leader, EVP of JM Family and Executive Management. And this award is going to be presented by Julie Huff.
I know Carmen is dying inside a little bit right now, knowing I'm getting ready to speak about her. And as you see, there is no video. Part of that is because Carmen is one of the most modest and down-to-earth people that I've ever known. But you might not know much about Carmen Johnson and the incredible barriers that she has broken. Already a mother with a very young son, Carmen put herself through law school. Her first legal job was as a law clerk, and at the time she was the only female who worked in the firm who wasn't a secretary. She worked her way up in that firm to become the only female partner. In 2004, Carmen joined Ackerman as an equity partner until she was invited by her longtime client, JM Family Enterprises, to join the organization. At JM Family, she has worked her way up to become the company's general counsel, no small feat, and sit on the executive management team, the only female non-family member to ever do so. And today, the general counsel reports to her. Carmen and her husband, Mark Johnson, also an accomplished lawyer, have raised 3 successful children. Carmen has also helped many others to navigate their careers, including me. And some of you may remember that Carmen was the first person to ever speak for this organization, the Women Leaders in the Law. As her mentee, Jenna Reinhardt-Recife, who's sitting here today, said, Carmen has helped others to understand when to speak up, when to stay quiet, when to send the email, and when to hit delete. She has counseled them on how to shine elegantly and how to let others shine just as elegantly. On behalf of the 17th Judicial Circuit, the Broward County Women Lawyers Association, and the Broward County Bar Association, it is truly my honor to present Carmen Johnson with her award today.
As you can see from the lack of the video, when I got the letter from the bar organization advising me of this award and I was part of this group, it was really rather daunting. And as Julie so kindly pointed out, that is not my comfort zone to tell you anything about me, or to think that I somehow stand out. And to be in the company of these ladies that have gone before me and those who are about to come almost didn't feel right. To me, a pioneer, and the word's been used over and over again, it's a trailblazer. I decided I was going to be a lawyer when I was 12 years old for no apparent reason that I must have seen a lawyer on TV. I knew no lawyers, my parents weren't any, and I just decided that that was going to do. And as Julie's told you, yes, I've been the first and the only female in a number of roles. But I never looked at it as any different than being my brother's only sister. It was that natural. I did, and I said, one of the ladies before it said it. It's lovely to be recognized for something that it's what you love to do. I've been blessed, and yes, I have some stories to tell, but I've also been blessed to have, incredible women to support me, friends like Jenna and colleagues like Julie now, and also to have worked with some incredible men who helped, mentored, nudged, including those I work with today. So I thank you for the honor. I thank you for being here, and go ladies, go.
Thank you, Carmen, and congratulations. And now we're going to go from the upper extreme to a lady who trailblazed but worked hard for very little, had a caseload that was overwhelming. And I learned firsthand about it when I complained about a housing project that Fort Lauderdale said they wanted to shut down and remove. And then I learned a lot about low-income housing, and I learned and met some of the smartest, hardest working, best people in the world. And then I learned to tour housing projects. In fact, I saw the lady that took me, but she's not here right now. This honoree is Barbara Prager, who was the first executive director of legal aid from coast to coast. To say that she's put her heart and soul into helping less fortunate people would be one of the biggest understatements I've ever made. And to present her with her award is the executive director, Tony Carrot, who she must have mentored him, because I don't know if he has a life because of his advocacy. But first we're going to watch a video, and then Tony will help recognize Barbara. Thank you.
It was really my parents who made the biggest impact on my professional career. They're the ones who brought me up with certain values, and in growing up I learned that it was important for everyone, the poor and everyone else, to have the same access to justice. And that's why I went into the career that I did as a legal aid attorney, and ultimately as the executive director of Coast to Coast Legal Aid of South Florida. I started with Legal Aid Service of Broward County back in 1982, and from 1982 until 2004, I represented senior citizens, primarily in the areas of elderly health, but also relating to housing issues, eviction issues, consumer issues, and benefit issues. When I moved to Florida, I moved from New York to Florida in 1979, and at that time my parents were elderly. They had just retired, and so I learned something from them about the elder community and some of the legal problems that they had, and that's one of the reasons that I was drawn to a career representing senior citizens. When I first came down to Florida, I was looking for something to do on a temporary basis while I looked for my dream job. Back in the 1970s, in the late 1970s, employment agencies were a big thing, and I went to an employment agency to try and find a temporary position. In the interim, the employment counselor that I spoke with essentially told me that she could probably find me a job as a receptionist in a law firm. I had just gotten my Florida bar license at that time. I would tell myself to be bold and courageous and not be afraid or let anything hold me back. I believe that early on in my career I was intimidated by judges primarily, but I learned over the years that judges are people, and that I would do my best by just talking to them and not being afraid to represent my client and express the positions that I needed to express. I hope I'm a role model. I had the opportunity, and it was a great honor for me, to be the executive director of Coast to Coast Legal Aid of South Florida. I was in that position for 15 years until this past December. So I think from that point of view, it's a unique opportunity for someone to lead a legal aid organization, especially for a woman, and I think that from that perspective, I hope that I would be a role model for other women in the legal and broader community. I think it's an honor for me, as someone who has worked in a legal aid setting, to be recognized for the achievement that for my achievements. And I think it's really important for somebody in public interest to also have that recognition.
Good morning. My name is Tony Carrata. I'm the Director at Legal Aid Service of Broward County. First of all, I know so many of the women being honored today, and it's just an amazing group of people, and I'm honored to be here and to help honor one of the very special people that I've known for the last 36 years. Since 1982, when she first joined our program, Barbara has been a superhero advocate for the poor, senior citizens, and generally for those unable to afford access to our judicial system. She has been an excellent attorney, an advocate for her clients and community, a strong but compassionate leader, and a wonderful friend and inspiration to me and to all who have worked with and for her for the past 36 years. When we divided our program back in 2003, there was no debate or second thought about who would be the new executive director of that new program. History for the last 15 years has proven us correct. She has all the characteristics of a great leader. She's intelligent, she's creative, she has great vision, she analyzes before acting, she has a great personal integrity and an unwavering loyalty to her program and to the staff and clients that she serves. She has been recognized throughout the state of Florida as one of the finest legal aid programs in the state. And she is an amazing, and it's been my honor to have known her and worked with Barbara for these past 36 years. Ladies and gentlemen, a true woman pioneer, Barbara Prager.
Thank you, Tony, for those very, very kind remarks. Tony has had several, since I retired at the end of December, Tony's had several occasions to give these kinds of speeches on my behalf. And when he retires, I'll come back and do one for him. So thank you, Tony. Thank you to the 17th Circuit, to the Broward County Bar Association, Broward County Women's Bar Association. This is truly an honor for me to be in the company of these women who are being recognized today. As I look back over the past 36 years, and in actuality, when I did retire, one of my parting gifts was a framed poster that started with the words 36 years, 9 months, 7 days. That's the exact amount of time that I worked at Legal Aid Service of Broward County and Coast to Coast Legal Aid of South Florida. And as I look back, and I haven't had a long time to look back, but over the past 2 months, one of the things that I'm most that I feel really good about is that I was able to spend my entire legal career doing something, giving back to the community, and it's been a real honor for me to do that, and a significant honor to be recognized today. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Barbara. And the next honoree is, I always teach women, when I teach them about finances, one of the things I always tell them to buy is buy utility stock if you can. Because when your bills go up, your earnings will go up, so you can offset the overall cost. So Juliet Rolhak is a pioneer for corporate legal leader, regional manager of external affairs. I've always wondered what external affairs, if they couldn't come up with a better word for that. But It's one of my favorite companies to own stock in, and she's going to be presented with her award by Ava Parker, the president of the Palm Beach State College. Congratulations, and we'll watch about a 4.5-minute video. Thank you.
I am so very humbled to have been selected as one of the first 10 women to be honored and recognized as a Broward Woman Pioneer in the legal profession. Being a pioneer, being a person who is the first to be, the first to do, the first to develop or to introduce, is often a heavy lift, but never a burden because of the progress it affords all of us. The recognition of women pioneers at this inaugural celebratory event is even more meaningful as it is being held on International Women's Day. I love the quote from Margaret Wheatley, "When we seek each other for connection, we restore the world to wholeness. Our seemingly separate lives become meaningful as we discover how truly necessary we are to one another." Her words are a reminder that we do nothing alone or in a vacuum. All that we accomplish is because of someone's influence, inspiration, or even delegation. I have been so fortunate to have many special people in my life. One of my first influencers comes to mind. Dorothy Pine McClarty is one of my mother's closest friends and a partner in one of the largest firms in Jamaica, where I was born and raised. She taught me that being a lawyer afforded you the skills to be independent and to think critically. She often encouraged me to pursue law and work with her, and I absolutely followed her guidance. Now, she was a true pioneer. We lived in a very patriarchal community, and she was the first woman in her firm and the first female partner in her firm. She ultimately moved to London to open and lead a second office there. Because of her, I saw pioneering firsthand at a very early stage. So putting my name in the hat to be the first Black female president of the Florida Bar Young Lawyers Division, or the first Black female trustee on the University of Florida Board of Trustees, were both dreams in my head, but attainable goals in my heart. Life can be difficult. Being a woman of color does create additional challenges, but challenges encourage strength, determination, and perseverance. I recall an incident early on in my career. One afternoon, I checked in for a deposition at another lawyer's office. We all sat there waiting patiently for about half an hour, and I finally felt compelled to inquire about the reason for the delay. The receptionist said they were waiting on opposing counsel, me. They thought that I was a court reporter or witness and never once contemplated that I was the lawyer. Those are difficult things to feel and hear, but despite challenges and obstacles, I am very satisfied with the path that my life has taken. However, if I could step back in time, I would have probably appreciated a few words of advice. First, be very deliberate about developing sponsors. And second, be confident and help shape your own reputation by sharing your professional competence and accomplishments with others. On the other hand, without my life experiences, I may not have contemplated and determined these pearls of wisdom. So for that, I am grateful. Many thanks again for this terrific honor and recognition. It is truly appreciated.
Again, I'm Ava Parker. I'm the president of Palm Beach State College, and I'm so pleased to have the opportunity to introduce my friend Juliet. Juliet and I have been together since 1984. We were 12 too. I don't know who said that earlier. But we were 1LWs at the University of Florida's Law School. And together we forged ahead. We were moot court partners. I can remember traveling across the country with her as we entered in different competitions. And I can remember one particular time in New York City. We happened to meet Bobby Brown in the lobby that day when it was still New Edition. But and he kind of liked Juliet. But of course, that was before Whitney and everything. But I can remember being in the stairwell and studying and preparing. And we got up there to present our case and totally went cold. And it was like, that was like our worst nightmare because of course we were the most prepared folks in the competition. But I'm so pleased to report that we jumped back and we actually won that round. And we really were the winners of the national competition. So I am just so pleased to know that the things that we did as young lawyers, I think gave Juliet the foundation to do the work that she does today. I think that, you know, being a woman lawyer gives you the confidence to do anything, and she's shown that. So yes, for 25 years she practiced as a litigator with FPL, but now she's transitioned to a whole new gig where she works in external affairs. And to be in external affairs, you know, it takes a smile, it takes strategy, and it takes making people feel warm and welcomed immediately. And I think that really epitomizes who she is. If you know her, she's a fashionista, she always looks great. You know, we started from big shoulder pads to like young lawyers who wore like those little bow ties around our shirt to now where she actually commands the room when she walks in because she always looks great. But it really is her warmth that makes her special. Today she's joined by her mother, Vivian Murphy. And if I had to identify anybody who I know was her inspiration, it was her mom, because she always said that her mom was the smartest woman that she knows. Please join me in recognizing Juliet, and on behalf of the 17th Judicial Circuit, Broward County Bar Association, Broward County Women Lawyers Association, Juliet Murphy.
Thank you so much, Ava. You know, I'm going to speak to you in a matter of sharing how much I believe in gratitude. I said that at the end of the video, and it is fairly much a part of my DNA, what makes me tick. So I'm going to start by saying, Ava, I'm really grateful for our friendship. And as I was driving in from west going east this morning, battling traffic, I was particularly grateful that she drove down from West Palm Beach to be here. And Ava, as she mentioned, was actually the person who pulled me out from moot court. Before that, I had planned to be a transactional lawyer, never contemplated ever being a litigator. And after moot court, I found my voice, so to speak. So thanks to you, Ava, I have never shut up since. So I am first grateful for being a part of this wonderful, excellent group of women who exhibit excellence every single day. It makes me proud, and I am personally privileged for having worked with many of you in different capacities over the years, so that is particularly meaningful for me. But you inspire not only others, but you inspire me, so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to the Broward County Bar Association, to the 17th Circuit, and the Broward County Women Lawyers for actually launching this and celebrating women on this International Women's Day. I thank them for that. I thank Braulio Rosa, who I know was responsible for nominating me for this award. I am really grateful for that. I'm grateful to my mother, who is here, for us to be able to spend this time together. And I appreciate Ava sharing something that I have always said, that you are the smartest woman that I know. You're also the kindest woman that I know. And I am grateful for you to share your kindness with me and teaching me to be kind. So I wanted to also thank my family, who is always there to support me, and my friends who are also here to support me. And I wanted to leave you with a thought about kindness, because that is something that again, is also very important to me. As the noted author Leo Buscaglia wrote, "Too often we underestimate the power of a touch, a smile, a kind word, a listening ear, an honest compliment, or the smallest act of caring, all of which have the potential to turn lives around." So like Nike says, just do it, be kind. No act of kindness is ever too small, and believe me, it comes back to you. In closing, I want to say thank you once again for this moment. I will always remember it.
Thank you, and congratulations, Juliet. The next woman to be recognized is the first female lawyer in Broward County, the first woman to serve as president of the Florida Bar Foundation. That woman is Adele Stone. She's going to be recognized today after we watch a short video by Juliet Lippman, who's president of the Florida Bar Foundation.
I've really only had one job, because the law firm I started out at when I was 23 years old, by a series of mergers, is really still the same law firm I'm working for today. The two people who made the biggest impact on my career are people who made that impact before I even started my career, and that would have been my grandmother and my mother. And because of their, let's say, messaging, and how they were and how I learned from observation, I think they gave me a terrific path to wanting to have a career, wanting to be an independent woman, and that's probably the two biggest influencers in my life. The one that I always tell people is so different than today is I have two children. So I gave birth to two children, but that was back in the day when there was no such thing as maternity leave. And at a pretty young age, I had already developed clientele, and I was pretty instrumental in transactional work is what I do, real estate attorney, business transactions. And I remember having my first child, Beth, and 2 weeks into staying home, because I thought I'd give myself at least a few weeks to recover, 2 weeks into staying home, I got a call from two of my partners, one of whom is now my husband, and asked me, and those are the days when there were no computers, et cetera. You know, I'm dating myself, but I'm holding my daughter in one hand. I still have this picture, and I'm talking on the phone on the other, and I'm trying to write, because they're asking me to do a contract. And I said, well, isn't there anybody else in the firm who could do this possibly? Because we had other attorneys who were able to do this. No, the client wants you. So I did it, and that was 2 weeks after the pregnancy, and then I had gone back after 4 weeks. I tried to do everything with some thought in it. I think that where I am today is the culmination of a lot of decisions I've made, and I feel comfortable with those decisions. You learn from the bad ones, you hope to repeat the good ones. You know, when I graduated law school, 50% of the class were women. So I was already in that very first stages of a huge influx of women. And clearly there's a difference between the number of women who go to law school and the number of women who, the percentage of women over the years who stay in there. But I think it's becoming a closer and closer, the gap is narrowing, and that there's a significant number of women. I don't think that we're definitely not an anomaly anymore. We're definitely accepted. I think there are certain societal issues that are going to affect women, whether they're lawyers, doctors, accountants, people in the hospitality industry, insurance agents. It doesn't make any difference. There are just certain things that you have to deal with as a woman. And I'd say just be as professional as you can. Work within the system and love that job, because I have really loved being a lawyer. And if you go into it, and I would tell this to anybody, man or woman, you go into it for the first reason, you practice law because you love the law. That's the reason you should go into it. And that's the advice I would give young women or young men. I think that society is finding less and less of a difference, even though they don't even realize it, and it may not even come to the fore. It's, as we know from recent, articles and lectures, and I've even given a couple lectures on implicit bias. That implicit bias is moving away from and it's unconscious, so they don't even realize it, but it's moving away from having people making choices that are dependent on gender or race, and they're just making choices based upon the individual, and that's all you can ask for. If everybody could peel away the layers of the onion and make choices based upon the quality of the individual, then there wouldn't be any surprises. Next year it may be, 10 men and 2 women, but knowing that it didn't matter and it was because of who they were is, I think, important, and I think that's what's reflected right now.
Good morning again. This is a life moment for me to be able to introduce one of my influencers. She is the first woman from Broward County to serve as the president of the Florida Bar Foundation. This is the philanthropic arm of the Florida Bar. The foundation accomplishes its mission of providing greater access to justice and promoting the public service among lawyers through strategic grant making. And it is Adele who appointed me to the foundation board 10 years ago when she served as the president. So anything good that I'm doing, you can take credit. Anything bad, just, you don't know me. As the head of Buchanan, Ingersoll, and Rooney's Fort Lauderdale office, she works hard to balance her dedication to the practice of the law with her extreme commitment to the community. She is a founding member, and it was her idea, as the past chairperson of the Executive Council of Legal Aid Services of Broward County and Coast to Coast Legal Aid of South Florida. She was elected to the Florida Bar Board of Governors representing our circuit, and she served from 2011 to 2013. She's a fellow of the American College of Real Estate Lawyers. Now, she is on the board of one of my very favorite foundation grantees, the Innocence Project of Florida, and she serves as the chair-elect. I've had the pleasure of working with wonderful leaders, really powerful, wonderful leaders, but you have the unique ability to govern with strength and with grace. I don't know anybody who says no to you. You personify what I call catalytic philanthropy. Thank you for being a wonderful example of a strong woman, of a strong leader, especially for all of us who follow in our footsteps. And one of my primary mentors and influencers, I'd like to introduce Adele.
Are you all leaving me? Yeah. Juliet, that was beautiful. Thank you. That's a hard act to follow. I know you're maybe wanting to hear some poignant stories about how difficult it was when I first got my job. There are stories. There are always going to be stories when you're a woman, when you're a minority, clearly. But after Tony Carrot rejected me as an applicant for legal aid, which I always kid him about, in 1978, I think you did us both a favor, right? But I mean, because I might have left legal aid, but you never left me. You never left my heart. But in the old days when you used to have type and sent out letters and ask for jobs, I had no connections. A small law firm in Hollywood at that time was Hunter, Atkinson, and Golden, hired me. I was 23 years old. I was a girl. They hired me. There was no, you're a girl, you're slotted. There was always, the honeys that clients would say, or somebody mistaking me for a receptionist or whatever. We all had to go through that, right? But nothing really poignant. I was very lucky. The only thing is, I will say that they did wait for me to come back after that pregnancy where I was, doing a contract before they put my name on the letterhead. So at a young age, I had my name on the letterhead of a pretty prominent firm, and I'm proud of that. The background that I have is, grew up in South Florida. I'm 2 years old when I got here with my parents, and obviously, and there was no, 3 girls, so we're 2 sisters. There was no slotting of, well, you have to do the lawn and you have to do, we all did everything. We weeded, we did the lawn, we took out the trash. And so there was nothing. And I'm the product of an unbiased background, and I feel very fortunate. My two sisters who are here, Anita Beyer, Ellen Bogdanoff, very, very well-respected professionals. We're just the product of an unbiased background. And as I said in the video, that's pretty much the best that you can hope for. So it's been my privilege to practice law. I do love the law. It's been my privilege to practice for 40 plus years. And that's hard to say. And I really thank you all for this award. I am really privileged to get it, and it's very meaningful to me. So thank you.
And the last woman to receive an award today is from Indiana, too. I was born in Evansville, Indiana, and I know that she came down here from Indiana. Of course, I was born there because it was the closest hospital, because I was the first child on either side of my family that was born in a hospital. They were all born at home or on a reservation, and that's the truth. But this lady, my husband only, of all the 34 years he served on the bench, he only served 6 years in civil. And he says she's the smartest civil lawyer that ever appeared before him. And that's Diane Weaver, who was the first president of the Broward County Women's Lawyers Association. And her award, after, there's not going to be a video, will be presented by Madeline Manella, who's the current president of the Broward County Women's Lawyers Association. Diane, congratulations.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Madeline Manello, and I am the current president of the Broward County Women Lawyers Association. And on behalf of the BCWLA, as we call it, I'd like to thank you all for being here today, and thank especially the Broward Bar and the 17th Circuit for putting this together with us. And as the current president of the BCWLA, I must also thank, and I am very honored to introduce, Diane Weaver. Thank you, Diane, for starting this wonderful organization for us all. I'm honored to introduce Diane not only because she founded the Broward County Women Lawyers Association, but also because she's an inspiration for female trial lawyers like me. Diane knew at 13 that she wanted to be a trial lawyer. But when she went to college, her parents, they tried to dissuade her. They said women don't really become trial lawyers. Maybe focus on something else. Nevertheless, Diane went to law school at the the Indiana University School of Law and graduated in 1970. From there, she went on to clerk in the federal court for the for the Southern District of Florida. And despite this incredible resume, when she was finished with her clerkship, she had a hard time finding a firm that would hire her to do trial work. Again, she didn't let this dissuade her, and she soon became the only female practicing trial attorney in Broward County. And her fellow trial attorneys dubbed her the Skirt. She soon went on to be a very well-respected trial attorney, not only in the county, but also in the nation. She served on the Board of Governors of the Association of Trial Lawyers of America, the Board of Governors of the Southern Trial Lawyers of America. She's a charter member of the American Board of Trial Advocates and served on the Board of Directors of the Academy of Florida Trial Lawyers. And on top of all of that, she has twice been named among the top 10 trial lawyers in the country by the National Law Journal. So Diane, thank you for your inspiration and for forging the path for all of us. And it's my honor to present you with this award.
Thank you. Thank you. I will close with how happy I am to be here. My best friend in junior high school, her grandfather was the premier trial lawyer, jury trial lawyer in Kansas City.
And so when we had vacations and we had time off, Melinda and I would go and watch her grandfather try cases. And I came home and told my parents, I want to do that, because I watched the jury from being just neutral to, as the trial went on, they would turn to Mr. Popham to see whether or not he approved of what was happening. And I told my parents I want to do that. Well, my dad, who was a bit of a male chauvinist, as I told Judge Bernstein, said, okay, if you're going to do something like that, at least do something and do it right and make the country better and become a prosecutor. I said, okay, that's what I'll do. So we had career day in 7th grade, and we went in and we were to announce what we were going to do as a career. And I very proudly got up in 7th grade and told my class, I'm going to be a prostitute. Oh, it was the first of many speeches. I don't know how many of you have seen On the Basis of Sex.
Oh, I do.
I have seen it about Justice Ginsburg, and as I told Judge Bernstein, I cried. It was so beautiful, I cried. And everything that was said to her about why she couldn't have a job as a trial lawyer was said to me. Everything. You might get pregnant. You might get married. My wife wouldn't like having someone like you in the office. A jury will never give any credibility to what a woman has to say. And I'm so sorry, but women just can't understand complex things. Nonetheless, my best one was that you can't be a trial lawyer because when we're in negotiations, sometimes we use foul language. Now, my husband told me how I should have responded. I wouldn't have gotten the job. He said, but honey, you would have felt so good walking out. So I was a law clerk for the Honorable Peter T. Fay, as was Judge May. He gave us great bones, didn't he? He gave us great bones. And I was his first law clerk. In fact, when they had his 40th reunion on the bench, his JA called and said, Diane, you've got to be there. And I went there and I told the judge that the reason I'd come in person to his 40th was because I was afraid if I wasn't there, he wouldn't take judicial notice that I was 7 years old when I served as his clerk. In any event, after I got out of my clerkship with Judge Fay, I wanted to be a trial lawyer. And I interviewed and interviewed and interviewed. And I've told you some of the answers I got. But the positions I was offered were just great. I was offered librarian. I was offered, domestic. Domestic was thought very good. Go into domestic. I was offered probate, anything but be a trial lawyer. And at one firm in Miami, they suggested that they not only wanted to give me a job, but they wanted to give me a promotion to the appellate division of the firm because I was too smart to talk to juries. In any event, I came here to Broward County with my first job as a trial lawyer, and I was the only woman, and as was said to you, doing jury trial work here for a lot of years. It seemed like a lot of years, and they called me the skirt. You got a case with the skirt. And as I was saying, all of the judges were men. All of the opposing attorneys were men. All of the doctors, and I was doing personal injury, were men. All of them were, except for me. And I would go into hearings, and this is with respect to the circuit bench here, and I would go into hearings and there would be a male lawyer and there would be a male judge and there would be me over here. And I would walk in and the judge would turn to the male lawyer and say, what'd you think of those Dolphins this weekend? Weren't they great? Or I got such and such on the back nine or whatever. And after that conversation, then the judge would say to my opposing counsel, what are we here about? My motion over here. So the first time that I ever appeared in front of a female judge in Broward County, it was Judge Bobby Gunther. And I'll never forget, I walked into the hearing room and here's a female judge and she looked up and she said, Diane, I love that dress. Yes! Yes, I said. In any event, Mariana Smith, Dean Mariana Smith, who was Dean of Academics at American University and Dean of Academics at Nova too, she and I met and decided after getting to know each other that the women lawyers in this county needed a push, needed a help, needed an organization to help us all have the chances we wanted. So we pooled our money, which was not a lot at that time, and had a wine and cheese party at a little restaurant down here in Las Olas, and we sent a letter and called every single female lawyer in the county to come to our wine and cheese taste. Told them what we wanted to do, and please encourage them. We said this is not an anti-male organization, this is a pro-female organization. And it was amazing, the reaction, because there were 2 law firms in this county, I was called by the females, that told their associates that if they joined the Broward County Women Lawyers Association, they would be fired. Nonetheless, we went on. And we gained a lot of steam, and we had a lot of fun. And then came a Broward County Bar Association contested election for president. And one of the candidates, and I'm not going to even name him this many years on, his platform to be the president of the Broward County Bar Association is, we have enough women judges. True story. So we organized, you guys. We organized, and we got about 20 women, and we went to the election of the night of that meeting. We stormed the election. We defeated that candidate, and after that, Judge Bernstein, Judge Moriarty, Judge Kokalas, I could go on, became wonderful pillars of our legal community. They always were. She's my hero. She is my hero. Every lawyer has in their life, if you're a trial lawyer, the case. And I have 2 the cases. One, when I first realized I really was accepted as a trial lawyer, and this is a short story, I was in front of Judge Franza. I was in front of Judge Franza. I was defending at that time before the dear Lord sat on my shoulder and said, "You're too nice to behave this way," and I became a plaintiff's lawyer. But I was defending, and it was a boat collision case, and I had gotten a surveyor, and I had the charts, and I had all this, and I just tried this case for a week and a half, and I was just so proud of myself with this case. So the jury went out. I don't think they were out long enough to elect a 4-person, but they must have been, because they came out with a question. And I'm defending this case, and the question was, how much did the plaintiff want? So Judge Franza leaned over the bench and said, "Well, Diane, takes the edge off, doesn't it?" And I knew then I was accepted as a trial lawyer. But the most important case in my career, Judge Wren touched upon, was a fabulous 19-year-old boy. His family didn't have a lot of money to send him to college, so he was going to Broward Community College, and they didn't have enough money to give him a car to get to college, so he was on a scooter. And he was slammed by a car that ran a red light and thrown 50 feet. He had every limb in his body broken. He had all kinds of injuries. He was in the hospital for months. Nobody noted he had a brain injury. His behavior changed. His behavior changed a lot, but they attributed that not to a brain injury, but to the medication, to the pain, to the stress, to everything other than looking at the fact that this young man had a brain injury. He had a temporal lobe injury, and temporal lobe injuries often give rise to seizure disorder. That is a very common place for a seizure disorder arising from a brain injury to have occurred. And he suffered from what is known as episodic dyscontrol. His seizures caused him to go into just violent rages, screaming violent rages. And in one of his rages, I promise. She wants me to sit down. Judge, this reminds me of when I used to be in front of you. You'd turn that thing over. Anyway, he was put in a state mental hospital where he was tied to a bed in 4 and 5 point restraints for 19 months in secret. And we tried that case for 12 weeks. And the jury came back, and it's not the size of the verdict, although it's the largest civil rights verdict in the state of Florida. It was that he got sufficient money that he would always have an opportunity to be kept in a comfortable, wonderful place. And Judge Wren knows my friend Judge Marshavich, who then was Secretary Marshavich, called me after that trial and said, we've got to prevent something like this from ever happening again, and we need to put together a mental health. So being here with Judge Wren was awesome. Being here with Judge May was awesome. I mean, she is just so, and she had more fun with Judge Fay than I did, because they take you water skiing, right? That was great. And Judge Athanasakis, you forgot Valerie Harper was at that fundraiser. We had Jean Stapleton and Valerie Harper, and I think it was the first and only fundraiser in Broward County for the Equal Rights Amendment for women. Yes. So much history. And Judge Bernstein, you know, my husband, I've never called a judge anything but judge in a public thing, but my husband would always say to me, what are you doing today? And I'd say, I have a hearing in front of Judge Bernstein, and he would say, I wonder if your friend Miette's going to rule against you again. And you, Linda, just to announce, my husband, who was also a federal law clerk, came out with great credentials, applied at English Cowan, and he went through 5 interviews. They liked him very much. He had incredible academic credentials, and then he found out he was married to a woman trial lawyer and said they couldn't hire him. So you overcame all of that, and I'm very proud of you. Thank you, guys. I love it. I would be a trial lawyer for another 40 years if the dear Lord would allow it. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, one of the things that Diane Weaver said, if you haven't seen On the Basis of Sex, the first thing you need to do is grab your daughters and your sons and your husbands and go see that movie. That's the best movie that Jeff and I have seen in years. And the other thing that I liked it that Diane said foreperson, because when Jeff became a judge, I said, you can't say foreman. And then he would say, if any of you ladies would like additional assistance to your car. I said, Jeff, I was sitting there, I said, Jeff, look at me. I carry a gun. Most of those men don't. How do you know it's just ladies need assistance to their car? So then he turned it into saying, if any of you jurors need assistance to your car. And the other thing, my other pet peeve in the legal community is I still see it on occasion. You know how when they would write an order, they would know all men by these presents? I said, oh, the men are the only one who have to pay attention? Just strike that damn word out and say know all by these presents. And my other favorite thing, when they're talking about sexism, is a judge who's retired now too. When I was elected to the school board, because I would correct everybody for making sexist remarks, and many of the recipients today mentioned those, my coffee mug said, men who call women sweetheart, honey, and babe should have their tiny little peckers clawed off. And I've never forgotten it. But now somebody who's been very patient, because he's got a trial going on, and he came in, he stopped in several times to speak to us, is one of the fairest men I've known. He has had to deal with more controversy from judges than me ever had to, and that's hard to believe. But he's a great chief judge. He takes everything responsibly, professionally, and he listens. And that's Chief Judge Tudor.
So I apologize for not getting here earlier, but I did want to come and speak on behalf of the 17th and recognize all of our women pioneers and just tell you a couple of stories and thank Braulio. And I don't think Lori has ever gotten the recognition she needs for all of the things she's done. She's forged many paths for many people in this community, and we thank you very much. When one of the chauvinistic, is that the word? Who said that word? I remember when I was a young lawyer, very young. I just gotten here from Tennessee and was sitting in chambers, and then we used to sit in those big rooms, and you just move down and move down. And the lawyers in front of me, one was an older lawyer who I knew, had a lot of respect, and there was a young female lawyer. And she was making some argument, and I won't say who the judge is. He used to have a big cigar and rear back in his chair. You may know who he was. And she whatever she said, he didn't like, and he said, "Sweetie, we don't do that in Broward County." And I'd never forget that remark. And I remember, Miette, I think I've told this story before. When I was going through the JNC, they always would ask you two questions. One would be, what Supreme Court justice do you admire or emulate? And then they would ask you what trial judge in Broward County you respected or emulated. And the question took me by surprise. I didn't even remember somebody telling me that was what they were asking, but I said, Miette Bernstein. And they all kind of looked around because there weren't very many female judges in those days. Bobby Gunther, I remember, and Pat Kokalis and others. And they said, well, why Miette Bernstein? And I said, well, if you go to see Judge Bernstein and you're black or you're white, you're male or you're female, you're experienced or you're inexperienced, if you made a motion to continue the trial, she always said no. It didn't matter what it was. And that always stuck with me on the fairness aspect of it. And as far as Diane Weaver, I was a very young lawyer. It was Weaver and Weaver, it was Ben. And she doesn't remember any of this because, she was too rich and powerful back then, and I was just a little guy. But we had, it sticks in my brain, Diane, that it was some kind of a waste management forklift case of some kind. A big forklift had lifted over or killed somebody or caused a major accident. And there's a bunch of lawyers involved in the case, of course, as always there were back in those days. And every time we'd assemble for a deposition, all the defense lawyers would look at each other and say, God, I hope Ben's coming to this deposition. God, I hope Ben's coming to this. Because everybody was scared to death of Diane Weaver back then. And you were a heck of a lawyer. We were sorry to see you all leave. We've made progress right now. In this courthouse, there are 90 judges, the second largest judicial circuit in the state. 47 are male, 43 are female. We have 11 magistrates, 4 are male and 7 are female, so it's 51 to 50 right now. We've made a lot of progress since many of you all took the bench, and it's directly attributable in many instances to folks like you and folks like you who've pushed the JNC committees, pushed the governor, pushed people to run for election. We've made great progress. I was at a meeting yesterday with Mike Satz. We're talking about building security, and some of the courtrooms are much smaller than they used to be. Mike pointed out 70% of his office is now female. That's the largest it's ever been, and he has one of the largest law firms probably in the county. So we've made some inroads and some progress. Some of our judges I see back there, our female judges, are there directly because of many of the things you all did and contribute to get them in the place that they were. So on behalf of the 17th Circuit, I want to thank all of y'all and Michelle and Braulio and everybody for putting this together. We're going to do it again. We're going to honor more people in the future. And for everything you all have done, we recognize you all and thank you all very much on behalf of the 17th Circuit.
Thanks, Judge Tudor. He's one of the good guys. You know, most of us wouldn't be here without several really good men standing behind us. So I don't want to not give them the credit they deserve. And right now, before we have our concluding remarks from Edwina Keisler, they're going to show a video of some women who've done great things and couldn't be here today either because they're no longer living or because they couldn't make it. But one of the women will be the Honorable Bobby Gunther. Bobby was the first woman appointed to the 4th DCA from Broward. She preceded Melanie. And Angie Weir, who was the first woman president of the Broward County Bar Association and a county solicitor. And I bet there's very few of us who remember Angie, but she was a trip. And then the Honorable Barbara Bridge, who was the first woman judge in Broward County Court. And Fran Cleaver, who was the first woman assistant public defender in Broward County. So I know we've held you all and we promised we'd be finished 15 minutes ago, but it's just a short video, a PowerPoint of 2 minutes, and then we'll have concluding remarks from Edwina. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Edwina Kessler, and I am the current president of the Broward County Bar Association. The Bar Association has been around since 1925, and I am the 9th female president. Since I began practicing law in 1994, there have been 8. So there was only one prior to Ms. Conahan, who was in, I believe we're 1994, 1995, when I became a young lawyer. I am also happy to say that in 3 years, we will have our 10th and 11th female presidents in Jamie Finizio Bascom and Allison Smith, who will be, they will be after Robert and Michael Fischler. On behalf of the Broward County Bar Association, I would like to congratulate all the honorees. I am very proud to say and honored to say that many of you I have known throughout the years, from when I was in law school, through Bar Association events, Stephen Brewer events, practicing law, practicing in front of you. Many of you have taught me so much on how to present myself. Judge Bernstein was, when I started practicing, it was her, Judge Kokalis and Judge Moriarty that were the females that were in the civil litigation field. I learned so much from them. And the one thing I would like to say too, and I'm trying to be very brief and I apologize, I was the youngest of 3 women who were all attorneys. My father was an attorney, and everyone probably thinks my father was the one that pushed us all to be attorneys, but I'm not quite sure he really thought women should be attorneys back in the day. But when my oldest sister, it was my mother really, who, strong Italian woman who taught us that we needed to be independent and be able to live on our own, succeed on our own, who really pushed us from we were very young children. And when my sister Paula graduated law school in 1984, I know my father had started changing and had started hiring women, but then after that, he always had women in that were associates. Lynn Futch was one of his early associates. Lauren Brown, I don't know if she's still here, was also. So I have been very fortunate that I've always been in a situation where I've had women lawyers that were leaders before me and that were strong. And I've always been in a situation where I've had men partners who have always come to us and actually valued our opinion. And for that, I'm grateful. Again, thank you all for being here. I'm so glad that so many people were able to make it, and it's wonderful seeing everyone and catching up. Okay, so I'll get on with it. I would like to call up the organizing committee, Judge Tobin Singer, Beth Fetter, Christine Lane, Lori Parrish, and Kathy Pugh. Is she still here? We have some flowers that we would like to present you all. Thank you all for all the hard work that you took in presenting. And for organizing this event. I know it was several years of talking about doing it, a year of hard work. I'd also like to thank our executive director, Braulio Rosa, because he's really the one that pushed this. When he became our executive director, probably about 5 years ago, I think it was, he's been here longer, but I think about 5 years ago, he really said we needed to start pushing having some type of women's events. And so we have several times throughout the last few years have partnered up with the Broward County Women's Lawyers Association and have had different events throughout the years. I know Ms. Johnson, I don't know if she's still here, she was one of the first speakers that we had at our Women's Symposium. I think it was a 3-part series. Again, I thank him for his, his future looking into this event. Thank you all again for coming and enjoy your day.
Ladies,